This is a pretty cool look for the night, isn't it? I like it. I love the level 30 costume for a lot of the characters, man. The whole red, gold, and silver theme, like, it's beautiful. What is up, though, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Seth, and we are back again with more Trove. And today, it's another one of those videos, folks, where we're going to be talking about the latest developer live stream that ended up happening last week. All of the questions and answers that they ended up giving out to us, which means that we're probably going to end up being overly critical about some of these things. But big shout out to Shirokiri. He always ends up summarizing all this stuff on the forums, and it's invaluable to somebody like myself and many others, because then, you know, we don't all have time to watch the dev streams, unfortunately. Oh yeah, these claws are changed because Merc is Uggles and I'm using his mod. Anyways, we'll talk about that another time. So before we get started, would appreciate if you would hit that like button. Helps the video out. Let's get right to it. So, first question is, any plans to add some potions with drop rate increase effect for grinding rare things like dragon fragments, talismans, auras, mounts, etc.? I'm guessing that this is kind of a more advanced idea of, well, just of how we ended up having the magic find potions, right? But this one seems to be, they're asking if it's a more specific drop rates, but they say no current plans for this, although we are currently evaluating some boosts for Bomber Royale and Dragon Coins. So I don't know whether they're saying that they're going to end up adding potions or just boosts in general. Hopefully it's just going to be something tied to Patron, which is something that we already have, instead of some Uggles new thing that they want us to buy, you know? As you said, there will be a new version of Troves of Wonder a long time ago. Will it come out with U10 update or sometime this year? I completely forgot they did actually talk about adding new items to the Trove of Wonders, not inherently that they were going to have a separate side other version of Trove of Wonders or something similar to them, but they say that unfortunately it's not happening. Some of the items that were planned for distribution in the original Trove of Wonder have been distributed by other ways, which, you know, like the Gonda ally, they just lazily threw into Mastery, and a lot of the items generally ended up getting thrown into Mastery or are going to end up showing up in Luxian's inventory, yada yada yada. Any info on the Tomb Raider rework? No info to share on that yet. However, if you guys are just tuning in, the info of the Tomb Raider is it's not until 2019, so who cares? Chloro rework. We will get to them in due time. Can't talk about classes we haven't got to yet. Now here's something that I really don't understand. Like, I know that they're doing a pretty good rework for a lot of these characters, but you would think that it should be their top priority to make all of the characters in the game more even, so that they actually will end up not only generating more income for people to end up buying these classes, but because this is the only gameplay we have is these classes. And it's like, some of these characters only need a numbers rework. They don't need to have some of their abilities overhauled, which I like the fact that they have been looking at the abilities and overhauling a lot of the classes. Ice Sage is completely different, but it's like, just change the numbers, you know? So anyways, the next question is, since we are getting new gems, that would mean that there would be more open space to use max health instead of crit hit on DPS classes, since you can hit 100% crit hit with your stat values already. So anyways, what they go on to say is they are thinking that, well, since we can get an overabundance of crit hit, why don't you make some type of a penalty? Maybe enemies are more resistant to crit damage or something like that, so we would have to get like more crit damage or more crit hit. I think, who cares? I think it's good that we can start getting some max health on our gems instead of crit hit, because it gives us the opportunity to, you know, actually be able to swap off of death defying, because we don't get one shot. Anyways, the devs say that they aren't, you know, no, not on the existing bosses for now, but it's something they'll consider in the future, is just nerfing the overall stats, which I don't know. So then the next question, this is interesting. How is the armor penetration or defense stat be placed on gear? Will there be a 5th slot on gear when upgrading to the new tier, or will it just be between the 2nd, 4th, or 3rd stat? Or could it just be on the gems? And the devs go on to say that we're currently evaluating this. Some items may have a 5th stat slot. The new armor and penetration stats will be on both gears and gems. Now, I really hope that it's just a 5th gear slot, because that would make a lot more sense, and I don't want to swap out some of my stats to try and roll them in for a bunch of new stats. There's not enough stats on our gear, and honestly, there's not really any incentive to get crystal gear. Talk about that in a bit. Other than the fact that it'll end up having these new stat values, which will only affect U10. Lazily enough. Will PTS be open for testing after Shadow's Eve or Turkeytopia? You guys weren't expecting this, were you? I'm actually super excited. It will be opening around the end of October. So around the end of October, we are going to be able to hop onto the test server on the PC version of the game, and we're going to be able to try out U10 for ourselves and try all the new content. Oh man, I'm excited about that. Like, seriously, finally we get to actually just try it out for ourselves. It's odd, though, that the PTS is only like a month away, and they have not really given us any info. Maybe they're avoiding it because U10 is going to flop, or they're avoiding it because they want us to experience it for ourselves, and it's secretly going to be the most epic update Trove has ever seen. When will the Battle Royale Merchant get new inventory? So they say that the Battle Royale Merchant will get a new inventory of items when the U10 update ends up coming out, so that's pretty cool. There will be, question is, there was a brief mention of a feature called Social Circle. Any details on that? Apparently, the devs say it was just a fun Easter egg added in the geode area with a bunch of pebbles, that's those dumb little rock characters, right? Talking to each other. They were a circle of friends. They shouldn't be talking about a feature called a social circle when, you know, like, it's like jokes like that. That's not an Easter egg. That's just misleading. Trove is crashing when taking a screenshot. Can you look into it? We have a bug tracker on this and we're looking into it. Okay, the game crashes for a lot of other reasons right now. Guys, fix it, please. What is going on? Why are so many people around? I'm scared. Did Lexian show up? Like, what's happening? I guess because it's the weekend. I should do a live stream after this. What's the chance of making classes really matter in endgame content? Like an old school tank, healer, DPS, who would need... The classes that essentially would need to work together to fight smarter and harder AI bosses that react in different situations. So first of all, that is under the pretext that Trove has AI. Trove doesn't have AI. There's no artificial intelligence in this game, which is different than most games. Most games have enemies, you know, doing special attacks, dodging, or doing stuff like that. In Trove, they're either just following and attacking you, or they're not. And for ranged enemies, they don't deke around or anything. They just slowly circle strafe around you while they auto-target you. That's it. There's no AI. So, unfortunately, because of that, there's a lot of limitations to the combat system in general, but I have always thought that the characters needed to synergize with one another better than they do right now, where there would be a character that gives a damage buff to everybody else, or maybe the knight could end up being more of a defensive character, not inherently useful on his own, but more so because you end up having all of your buddies around you tanking a lot more, or combine that with an actual tank that has more health values to it. Whatever. Trove's not a traditional MMO, so they don't really need that. The devs have a very, very lengthy response saying it's something we talk about a lot. We will be doing some things in the future to help this a bit more. You won't see a huge change in Trove combat. We aren't going to rework everything. Other games would. We do recognize that the combat doesn't have the same level of traditional way of fighting bosses. We will try to incorporate that more and more, but don't expect old school MMO raid bosses in the phase 3 of Geode. So the interesting part is not even their response. It's most of all the fact that they talk about phase 3 of Geode, which we'll elaborate on that in a moment. I do think that they could stand to definitely overhaul the combat. I know that they're against big development goals like that, but I think that they really should, because we're still dealing with the combat since the alpha version of the game. Like, it hasn't changed. But the biggest reason why I wanted to point out this phase 3 of Geode, guys and gals, is because unfortunately, so originally we thought that Geode was being delayed to winter and going to end up including both the phase 2 and phase 3 update of the Geode area. So originally phase 1 was the Geode area in general. Phase 2 was supposed to be adding U10, and Phase 3 was going to be adding these new Titan bosses and kind of world bosses, rampage bosses. Who knows what they're going to be, but essentially going to add new bad guys to the Trove's lore because they've utterly given up on the current Trove lore of, you know, Daughter of the Moon and her little henchman idiot that no one cared about, right? So the fact that they say don't expect old school MMO raid bosses in Phase 3 of Geode, unfortunately confirms that Geode was that U10 I should say was just utterly being delayed because they wanted to have the same update, the U10 content, on PC and on console at the same time. It doesn't mean that they took the extra time to add Phase 3 to Phase 2 and have a huge massive update for the end of the year to celebrate, and they've been hard at work on it. No, unfortunately, it's just got to do with U10 coming out and them just adding the new bosses probably in 2019. Hello, Rampage boss. I'm going to punch you so that I gain some of your beautifulness, which I think is very disappointing. And personally, you know, one of the things I would always argue is get over yourselves, devs. Stop trying to make it so that the you know, everything is synced up with console. Every game on the planet outside of Trove knows that you have the updates come out on PC first, because then you can bug fix them, and they get to the console version when they get to the console version. You know, I know that, you know, a lot of you console players are sitting there going, oh no, I want the new content now, but it would mean that the content could be better developed for console instead of rushing it all out at once. And wouldn't that be more important than the game crashing 50,000 times? When will you guys take a look at Trovesaurus and Steam Workshop for the next mods update? So if you guys don't know, almost everything in Trove is modded in. Like 80 to 90% of the mounts, weapons, whatever. It's all mods that get added into the core game afterwards. I personally think that they need a better system for actually doing this, or just a dev that's dedicated to looking at the mods, because unfortunately we get to see right here that they say we are checking in time and time again for the mods on Trovesaurus. We grab them as and when we have a need. In the previous updates, there were a lot of players' stuff added. It's kind of taken in waves. So the thing to take away from that comment is that unfortunately it doesn't seem like they look at Steam Workshop, despite the fact that there are some of the best mods on Steam Workshop that are in a lot of ways better than the tight-knit community of Trovesaurus. Because one of the things that I don't really like about the whole Trovesaurus thing is that it's unofficial, and so because of it, there's a lot of very biased opinions within the community of Trovesaurus. I'm not criticizing Trovesaurus as a website or the people that are involved with designing some of the fantastic mods that get involved with the game. I'm just trying to say that there is a bit of biasism there, and that's why you'll see a lot of mods or costumes and mounts and stuff like that that get added to the game are from a few select groups of modders rather than Steam Workshop breaking into that modding community with a lot of newer, more different ideas. Because I feel that in a lot of ways the modding community of Trovesaurus ends up liking what they like, and because of it, the, you know, options that we have for modded costumes and mounts and stuff like that getting into the game are pretty static. You know, it's kind of like you've seen it. Some of the mods that we've been getting more recently are pretty boring. But that's just my overall criticism towards the devs, not towards the modders. I wish that they would actually take the items and, you know, take a more serious look at actually checking these things out and getting some of the cooler ones that players actually want into the game. When will all of the flasks and emblems be available in the store for qubits again? All of them weren't available in the past. Specific sets were in the store for qubits. Yeah, quite a few of them were available in the store for qubits, guys. Don't kid yourselves. The ones that were there are now in Luxian's inventory and will stay there pretty much forever for no apparent reason whatsoever. But they're tradable. They didn't add that part about them being, you know, for no apparent reason, but I did. With U10, will there be any new fixtures added to the clubs? No, not with U10. Doesn't mean not ever, but not a specific focus for that update. Please move away from the fixtures, guys. Like, there's a little too many of them right now. There's too many options, you know. Next question is, can we have a prop for the cornerstones? So even the devs are kind of confused about what the question is. Maybe they were talking about the prop heart, which I could see why somebody would want something like that. I think that there is definitely a way that the game should have a way of seeing the coolest props, you know, the highest voted props in the entire game. But unfortunately, that's just not going to happen. And the devs say, even if that was the question, that's not going to happen just because it's a very, very technical thing to do. And I could see that that's something that's not worth their time. Will there be any chances to Trove RNG, random number generation, or of reevaluation of the drop tables on all of the boxes? The devs say that they reevaluate the numbers for systems or specific boxes every now and then. For example, gems will be getting a bunch of changes, including removing the possibility of gems breaking. Cool, I guess, but the RNG in this game is too brutal, guys. Like, a lot of the boxes either just need to outright have karma bars, or honestly, they need to drop them more frequently. Like adventure boxes, forget about it. No new player's going to be able to get any of the stuff out of those. I know this question has been asked go away. I know this question has been asked so many times, but can we teleport to any world we want, like the Atlas in the hub, but from a menu or something? And it's really, really cool that the devs finally, we're not getting the Trovian Atlas, ladies and gents, unfortunately, because I think that that is a very, very cool prop item that I wish we could place down in our club worlds next to our hub, but we're going to be getting something better. Yes, that will be coming out with U10. We're going to give you a key binding command and a HUD option where you're just going to end up activating it, like similar to Bomber Royale. We're just going to press a hotkey, and that's going to end up opening the same map that the Trovian Atlas has. So good on you on that one, devs. That just came out of left field. I'm really happy about that one. Can we get an option in-game to turn off outlines for everything? No, unfortunately, that's because that's just how Trove works, or how Trove looks. I mean, it's funny, there should be an option for it, because you can actually get rid of the lines. On PC, there's a mod that specifically functions to get rid of the lines around all of the characters. And guess what? It's a very simple option that they end up setting up. It's not that the lines of the characters are tied to the graphics. You can easily do it, devs. Like, seriously, just add it as a little yes, no. You know how we have a Sea of Tranquility biome for Club Worlds? Can we get a version of this, but with chocolate or lava or plasma? That's a super cute idea, but there's no plans for that, say the devs. Next question is, can you add a Mine Cinnabar quest and a Mine Crystallized Cloud quest to the Club Quest NPC called Amberine? Man alive, that was a mouthful. They say that it sounds like a good idea, so maybe they pass it along to the design team to evaluate it. Any plans for double fishing this week or anytime soon? No plans for it. There's tech limitations. Double fishing speed actually broke a fair amount of things. No, it didn't. Can double XP include double XP for clubs as well? And then the person goes on to explain to the devs how difficult it actually is to end up mining club XP or getting club XP. And it is. It's actually brokenly difficult. Like, it does need to be rebalanced, you know? Like, look at our club. This is how long that we're getting into getting to level 10. And this is Team Pixel. This is a very, very popular club on PC. Most average clubs are not going to be able to get high levels in their clubs. So you just got all join one. But anyways, they go on to say that we don't have plans to change it because it would throw off the intended progression for clubs. Oh, you mean like months to a year of actually grinding your club up? Nah. They say that they're not looking to double dip on the experience for classes also, as well as the club XP, which I like that analogy. That's hilarious, but seriously, they do need to change it. Can you I'm not saying they need to change it so that it's super easy. They just need to bump the numbers down a little bit. Can you introduce an endless shadow tower in the next shadow tower update, similar to greater rifts in Diablo 3, where there's an endless difficulty, and the higher you go, the harder the floors would get, and the more loot you get. It's actually a great system that Diablo 3 has that keeps people coming back to it, because essentially you have infinite content, because you're running random generated dungeons that get more and more difficult, and essentially you have to get more and more powerful tiers of the same old gear that you've gotten, so that you can specifically end up going into the higher areas, right? That's where set items end up coming in that change all your abilities. And I mean, it's Diablo. It's way more complicated than Trove. So the developers say that it's a really interesting idea. It won't be in the U10 update, but it's something we will be evaluating. There is some promise to it. There's more than promise to it, devs. Way more than promise to it. That would actually be some proper end game Trove. Because the funny thing is that I still think, even when U10 comes out, I don't think it's going to be the end game that we've all been waiting for. I think it's just going to be the same old grinding. It's not going to be anything revolutionary, right? Any plans for a Writings of Wonder tome to come back in Luxian? And they say it will return, but not until early of 2019. Yikes, they've got Luxian that stocked up. Any plans to improve the loot table in the greater crystal caches? Ooh, I would prefer to receive more tier 5 ores and tier 4 plants than stuff anyone could easily find from tiers 3 and below. Devs say, no plans at this time. We understand the request and we may reevaluate it after U10. Devs, if you're watching this video, although I know you don't because I'm so overly critical and you guys can't take criticism, you guys gotta actually change this. Because the greater crystal caches, I have videos of me unboxing like $500 worth of greater crystal caches and I was ripped off. I want my money back. I'm not even kidding. Like, those boxes suck. They're awful. You get garbage out of them. Any plans to revamp the way we currently obtain quests from clubs? You all know what this person's asking because it's been asked a million times, and by golly, the devs finally ended up listening. This is a momentous occasion because this is one of the first times that I can even recall that the developers actually say that this is probably one of our most requested changes, and it's something we will take a hard look at after U10. We understand why people want it and why we want people to go back to the club worlds, but we've had the request enough that we will have a serious look at it after U10 has come out. Finally, how many? So that means essentially we have to have people request the devs to change something in like 20 of their live streams, the same question over and over and over, just beat it into them until they end up finally going, well, guess that means we should change it. Doesn't matter how many times we've talked about it in videos, how many times YouTubers or content creators or streamers have been talking about this feature needing change. Doesn't matter how many people in the forums have talked about this needing change, or people in the comment section of videos have talked about it needing change. It's just about the live streams, because that's when you can actually reach the devs. They'll see it right then and there. We gotta spam them out. We gotta attack them. We gotta destroy these guys and tell them this is a problem. Like the Starfire Dragon Egg fragments, for example. People stopped asking about it, so they're not going to end up changing the drop tables. Honestly, who cares? Because something like this is game-changing. If we can actually accept quests from our club menu, or honestly speaking, just have infinite quests perpetually going over and over and over again, depending on the NPCs that are available, then hey, grinding would actually serve a purpose, and then they wouldn't have to rebalance club XP, because it would actually be a lot easier to end up grinding all of that stuff. Rant over. Placing a fixture over decorations, particularly trophies, destroys them without leaving a trace. Will there be any ways to fix this in the future? The devs say that no, that's why it explicitly says that it's going to destroy everything. You dummy, okay? I'm sorry that I called you a dummy, whoever ended up asking this question, but the game seriously does, it's very, very clear about it removing everything. Any plans to add more geode adventures? Not with the U10 update, but definitely more in the future. Do they mean more quests, I guess? I don't know. That's kind of weird that U10 would come out and we wouldn't end up getting more adventures from the little geode dudes, but most likely we're going to end up seeing those characters generate in the geode biome or something. I don't know. What system changes are planned in Trove? That's a very broad question, the devs say, and yeah, it is. You know, stuff. It's all about U10 at this point for us. Gem break removal, other gem changes, a new objective type. Wow, a whole new type of objective for completing dungeons and your star bar. What is it gonna be? Kill this thing and then guess what? There you go, you got it. I'm just kidding. I am really excited about U10, but seriously, there's a lot riding on U10, isn't there? Like, it's going to make or break the next phase of Trove in the years to come. Will we be able to open a new type of gem from U9 shadow boxes that we got from before the update? No, the new gems will not be obtainable from old boxes. No need to stockpile them. Now, this question, I would love it if the devs ended up elaborating on this. Please, somebody end up asking them in the streams. Again, hopefully we can get an answer to this. Near as I can tell, because they mentioned this within Power Gem boxes as well, I'm pretty sure that what they're saying, I'm very confident that what they're saying is that any shadow boxes that we have right now in our inventory will not drop the new gems, but once the new gems have been added to the game, then the shadow boxes that drop from that point onward will end up dropping this new gem. That's how the empowered gems are going to work, so I would naturally assume that's how the shadow boxes are going to work, but I would like confirmation on this. Can we upgrade our maxed stellar items to the new tier of gear in the forge, or will we have to get a lot of expensive pearls for them? Here it is, ladies and gents. We've all been waiting for this. You will not be able to upgrade them that way. You'll have to acquire the new crystal weapons in other ways. Ooh, that's a bombshell, good or bad. So first of all, we confirm that Astral gear, which was something that all of us were calling it as a temporary name, that was just kind of something that we thought was really, really cool. Unfortunately, they went for the most generic name possible, crystal gear. Like, does that mean that the new gems are going to be crystal gems? Like, it's stupid. Crystals sound weak. I know that crystal is actually really strong in real life, but as far as armor and weapons are concerned, I don't want a crystal hat sitting on my head breaking my neck. A crystal sword would be pretty cool, though. Crystal fist, that's kind of weird. But seriously, Astral gear just sounded like so cool. And crystal gear is just like, all right. So I'm guessing that it's going to end up having maybe the same ring around it of Radiant gear. It's just going to end up having the silver behind the actual gear image now as well. I don't know. This is just speculation. But they do confirm that we are not going to forge this gear. That's interesting because they've said before that we would forge the gear. But they are confirming now that it's not inherently that we won't get to forge the gear, but we're not going to be using this forge. So that's interesting. I really, fingers crossed, guys, fingers crossed. I really hope that the new gear, we already know it's going to take a bunch of new garbage, but it being called crystal gear makes me worried that it's going to cost crystals. Getting crystals sucks and technically is pay to win. So that would be garbage if we would be able to pay to win for the new gear, like seriously, especially it being random generation or random number, whether you end up actually getting any crystals and junk. But what I'm actually worried about is the time-gated garbage that's going to be involved with it. We already know without a doubt that the new geode area is going to be related to the new gear. So we're probably looking at going into U8 so that we can end up going to the geode elemental world. I'm guessing that's what it's going to be like. And then we're probably going to have to mine all of the new ore, gather new resources from killing enemies and stuff like that. All of this stuff is probably going to end up being required to upgrade our gear. Because one of the things that the developers, unfortunately, really can't stand, I understand their thought process towards that, but they don't like the idea that endgame players rush to the end of the new content right away. Which is fine, so long as the ore and all of the items that are involved here aren't time-gated. Then I'm fine with it, but it being time-gated always sucks. Because I don't want, that, even think about it for a new player. That means a new player takes like how long to end up getting up to stellar gear in the first place, and then suddenly they're met with, oh, by the way, yeah, that new crystal gear that you want, fella, yeah, you had to go into the geode area this entire time to farm this resource you can probably only get once a week. And even it being crystal, I would be fine with it costing crystal, but make it so that geode dungeons, completing them, make it so that those chests end up dropping crystals, very similar to golden seashells. I think that would be really cool. I think it would be also really cool if we had to complete a bunch of dungeons and stuff like that in the geode area, or just in U10. Maybe it's a U10 exclusive gear. We know it's not going to be, because obviously entering U10 is going to be at 15k PR, but I think it'd be really cool if they locked it into U10 and made it just super duper, no time gated, but super expensive, to get this new tier of gear. Unfortunately, it's not going to affect anywhere else in the game except for U10, and they've said that it's never going to affect anywhere than outside of U10, so it's not going to really change anything in terms of Shadow Tower or grinding U9 or anywhere else, unfortunately, meaning that the new gear technically is pointless outside of bragging rights and just having a little bit more stats. But still, I'm really, really excited about it regardless, and kind of interested to see where they go with it. I hope that it's a really cool, fun, new mechanic, and honestly, I hope that it is like very difficult to get, in that it's going to feel like proper end game gear, because the gear in this game is just kind of uggles right now, dude. Unless it costs like 1 billion Stellar Souls. That would be great. That'd be a really good way of getting the Stellar Souls back up in price on the market as well. Will Luxian ever sell Bound Brilliance? It's possible for the future. In October, there will be a Shadows Eve event, and there will be new ways to get things like Bound Brilliance when it comes out. I'm guessing they're being very misleading and just saying that one of the event rewards is going to be Bound Brilliance. That's what it sounds like to me. What do you guys think? Otherwise, yeah, I don't think they're going to be adding any new mechanics for getting the time-gated Bound Brilliance resource anymore. They do need to evaluate on it, though, because otherwise getting to the end game right now is actually impossible. Like, you can't get gem augmenting items. You can get, like, what, 5 of them a week or something ridiculous? Or is it 5 a day? Either way, it's ridiculous, the amount that you can get. Like, it takes so long to get to the end game if you didn't end up buying, like, all of the... Well, all the login tokens are gone, so everyone's just screwed as far as Bound Brilliance is concerned. As a spooky swag bag pack coming back, older Shadows Eve events will be coming back via credits. Very, very cool. Hopefully we're going to see a new pack of costumes coming out with Shadows Eve. I think it'd be really cool to add a whole bunch of the newer costumes, including a bunch of the Vanguard costumes, because seriously, give us some Vanguard content, devs. Give us some Vanguard content, man alive. With the new power creep being exceedingly high, and many competitions already being removed from the leaderboards due to the breaking numbers of 32-bit, can we expect a migration to a 62-bit, allowing numbers to go higher? So I think what they're trying to say here is one of the big limitations. I didn't even know that was probably one of the limitations, but I guess what they're saying is the limitation of like the power and the stats and everything like that in the game has to do with the game being 32-bit instead of 62-bit. That would also explain why it's so unoptimized. But anyways, they say not in the immediate future. That's a monumental task. We are doing things as far as looking into numbers so as not to break the game. I'm not entirely sure what the whole 32-bit, 62-bit thing is, but either way, that's kind of just all I can figure. Honestly, just optimize the game. Who cares? Never mind all the leaderboard and competitions and stuff like that. I mean, generally, it needs an reevaluation in general. Can have a possibility to fill tomes inside the geode caves. Yes, please. Devs say, good point. We will evaluate it. It makes sense. So they didn't even think about it. I thought about that day one. I didn't mention anything about it because I thought that it was stupid that it wasn't there. Like, the geode caves is bad because of the fact that it's completely separate content and doesn't end up integrating with the rest of the game very well at all, including tomes as one of the many, many things. Any plans to remove chaotic items from Luxian? We can craft many of these chaos items for very cheap, and Luxian should have more items from the Radiant Dayspring than the Chaos Chest items. So Luxian will continue to offer items from the Radiant Dayspring in the future appearances, and continue to offer garbage Chaos Chest items for players who would rather use Dragon Coins to obtain them, even though it's going to always be way cheaper for the crafting materials involved instead. They didn't say that, I added it. Could you address rare... I do think that Chaos Chest items should stay in Luxian's inventory. Personally, I think that they should always be tradable versions of the items, and in most cases they are. Could you address rare companions? Yes, please. Many players are already way past geode completion and just struggling through the painful RNG of bronze eggs. Not even struggling, dude. Given up. I've opened over 100... I don't even know how many bronze eggs I've opened now. Like, seriously. I used lodestars on 50 of them. They didn't give me anything. I throw in 3 eggs every now and then. I don't even farm the caves anymore. I don't even bother because honestly it's boring and it doesn't benefit me in any way, shape, or form. And even in the very, 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 very rare chance of getting a silver or gold egg, the point is about those eggs that sucks is even if you end up opening them, it's no guarantee that you're going to end up getting the 2 companions that you're missing. You're probably just going to end up getting a dupe. They should make it. I think that'd be cool. Where any dupes, like you should be able to loot collect them, like loot collect companions into tokens, right? And then you would either be able to just, you know, spend that token to end up getting a different companion, or maybe it costs a certain amount of those tokens to end up crafting a new companion, or in all honesty, what we all ended up talking about day 1 that they should have had with the geode area, where they should have had it so that you could just end up forging 50 bronze eggs into 1 silver egg, maybe 5 to 15 silver eggs into a gold egg. They need to have something like that, because otherwise it's too random. Too random, I should say. Devs go on to say that we are discussing the eggs. They are supposed to be hard, but we'll definitely continue talking about things like that that we can end up doing with them. They're too hard though, devs. Like it's not good hard. You need to have something be difficult to the point where what you end up actually getting out of it feels rewarding. The geode eggs do not feel rewarding in any way, shape, or form. They feel just completely random and stupid, and you can spend an absurd amount of time to end up getting an item that essentially is just going to end up being a different color of the starting companions that ultimately is just going to end up being used for vanity. You know, and we've got other allies in the game that are cooler anyway, so seriously, who cares? Anyways, last question right here is gardening revamp, ? Devs say, yes, there is one. It's pretty major. Not going into detail yet. I mean, I think it's cool that they think that the professions need a relook. I do think that it's good that they're going to reevaluate old mechanics of the game, because one of my biggest criticisms towards the development of Trove is they're always looking to the next new thing rather than refining the old content that desperately needs it. Gardening is not one of them. You plant things, they grow, you harvest them. That's gardening in real life. We don't need it overhauled to be some crazy mechanics in this game. Also, more than likely, them overhauling it means that they're probably going to end up adding some more pay-to-win items, because they can't help themselves at this point, man. Like they're not going to do it for free, right? Where they're going to end up evaluating and changing the gardening mechanic all for the sake of the player and it being more convenient for us, right? I don't know. Maybe it'll end up being awesome, but I highly doubt it. Maybe it'll end up being something cool like the geode area. But again, it's just gardening. Who cares? Anyways, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to do it for me today. Very much appreciate you watching. Let me know what you all think in the comments down below. Would love to hear your responses to some of these questions, and also just your speculations about, more importantly, the crystal gear. I'd love to see what you guys think about it and get some feedback from you guys, because I can only really think about a few handful of ways. So I'd be really interested to hear a new opinion about it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, sub, and hit that notification bell. And if you want to support me, you can always sponsor the YouTube channel with that join button down below. Buy some of my merch. We got the old High Merch shirt in the store. Or you can check out Gawkbox if you don't have any money, which is a way that you can donate to me for absolutely free. Basically, you click the link down below through your phone. You just connect it to your YouTube account. Don't worry, they don't hack you. You download phone games. You win money for doing just that. You know, for downloading phone games and playing them for 2 minutes, and then you can send it my way. And you can send me stickers through it as well, which will show up in live streams as a kind of way of shouting yourselves out, because that'll show up in the video. Sign on, stay ever, everybody.